يا قدس يا شدو البلابل في فمي.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now where I am standing now is in front of the Jāmi Al-Qibly Masjid, which is situated at the southern point of Masjid Al-Aqsa, is because it's facing directly south towards the Kaaba. This was originally built by Sayyidina Umar Farooq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and then further extended by Khalif ibn Abdul Malik. Now what you notice is that on the left hand side you see pillars there, and on the right hand side you also see pillars there. This is to signify that there were total 15 aisles to this masjid. Now you see, like for example, you see 3 aisles on this side, you see 3 aisles on this side, and you see 1 aisle in the middle, totaling 7. There were 15 aisles to this masjid. So there were 4 on this side and there were 4 on the other side, and this was because due to the extensive damage that was caused due to the earthquake to the masjid, therefore it was now reduced to 7 aisles as we see it today. There were many different names given to this. One name was initially known as the Musalla, and then later on it was known as Jāmi Al-Qibly, is because this is directly facing south towards the Kaaba, the Qibla direction. This was first built by Sayyidina Umar Farooq radiyallahu anhu from timber wood, enough to accommodate 3,000 people at the time. Then it was further extended by Khalif ibn Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, and then further renovated by Sultan Salahuddin Ayyubi rahmatullahi alayhi after it was occupied by the Crusaders and converted into their headquarters.
النفس سلام الله يا قدس فداك الروح والنفس مهاد الدين والتقوى سلام.
Okay, we are inside the Jāmi Al-Qibly, and where I'm stood right now is in front of the Mihrab of Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salam, because this was the area where Zakaria alayhi salatu salam would stay, and he was the former Imam of Masjid Al-Aqsa during his time after Imran. Imran was the father of Sayyidah Maryam alayhi salatu salam, who was a very, very pious and righteous individual, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dedicates an entire surah called Surah Al-Imran, the family of Imran, in the Quran. So after Imran, Zakaria alayhi salatu salam was the Imam of Masjid Al-Aqsa, and this was the place that where he would stay and lead the people.
فإذا بأقصانا ينادي أمة شمت العدا بجناحها.
What you see here before you is known as the Mihrab of Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu, was because Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was the first one to build the foundation of the Jāmi Al-Qibly. Now just to clarify a point here, that this is not the actual place where Umar radiyallahu anhu built the masjid, but rather it was a ground below. This was then further extended by the Umayyads. Now the famous story goes that when Abu Ubaidah Jarrah radiyallahu anhu, the leading commander of the Sahabas, when they lay siege of Bayt al-Maqdis around 6 months, and the priest at that time by the name of Sophronius, he refused to surrender Jerusalem without the Khalif being present himself. So then Umar radiyallahu anhu, upon receiving the news, he set off with his slave on this auspicious journey in conquering Jerusalem. Now, as soon as he arrived, the Sophronius came and he welcomed him. He recognized the signs in the Khalif, and then he peacefully surrendered Jerusalem over to him, and then the Muslims entered Jerusalem without any conflict, without any fight. So this is how Jerusalem was conquered. And then when Umar radiyallahu ta'ala came, he performed 2 raka'at nafil, in the first one reciting Surah Isra and the second reciting Surah Al-Sad. So this is basically what it was. Now you notice here, if you see the signs here, that where you got these crisscrosses here, these were later additions that were made. So this was not during the time of Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, neither the Umayyads, but rather this was during the time that when the Crusaders, they had occupied Masjid Al-Aqsa, and further by the Umayyad dynasty. So these were all of the later additions that were made then. Thereafter this became part of the entire extended part of the masjid, and then was known as the Jāmi Umar. Okay, where I am standing right now is in the front of the Jāmi Al-Qibly, and what you see here before you is this beautiful chandelier that's hanging from the dome of the Jāmi Al-Qibly. Now there's an interesting story behind this which I would like to share with you, that there was a man who was not an alim or a scholar, but he was just an electrician by profession, so a lay person. And due to his love for Masjid Al-Aqsa, he wanted to contribute his share towards the masjid. So whilst he was praying salah in the basement downstairs, he happened to discover an old dismantled chandelier that belonged to the Ottoman times. So he took this home, he cleaned it, assembled it, connected all the wires, and then presented it to the Awqaf. and the custodians of the masjid, and they were so impressed by his ingenious work that they honored him by placing this chandelier in front of the Jāmi Al-Qibly, and this is the same one that you see right now in front of you. So what we understand from here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take khidmat and accept a person's work due to their sincerity. Now this person, he was not an alim or a scholar, he was just an electrician, but due to his love towards Masjid Al-Aqsa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted him.
فإذا بأقصانا ينادي أمة شمت العدا بجناحها.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Where I am stood right now is in front of the Jāmi Al-Qibly, and what you see in front of you is a wooden mimbar which was built and installed by the Jordanian Islamic Awqaf after an arson attack which burnt down the mimbar of Nuruddin Zangi rahimahullah. This mimbar is used by the Imam who delivers the Jum'ah khutbah. But just to give you a brief history behind this, that during the 12th century, when Nuruddin Zangi rahimahullah mobilized the Muslim army to fight against the Crusaders who had occupied Bayt al-Maqdis and converted Masjid Al-Aqsa as their headquarters, Nuruddin Zangi rahimahullah ordered for a mimbar to be built, which he promised to install inside Masjid Al-Aqsa after it was conquered. And the mimbar had a very unique design in a sense that approximately 16,000 pieces of high quality wood were used to build this mimbar, and it would all fit harmoniously together without the use of glue, without the use of screw, without the use of bolts or anything. It would just fit together nicely, like we have like a jigsaw piece, like what we have like Lego pieces and so on. So this is how this mimbar was. However, Nuruddin Zangi rahimahullah could not live to see the day that Masjid Al-Aqsa would be conquered. He died before that. However, the mimbar was already built. His student Salahuddin Ayyubi rahmatullahi alayhi carried his teacher's legacy forward, and in the year October 1187 he liberated Jerusalem and Masjid Al-Aqsa from the Crusaders. Now when he entered Masjid Al-Aqsa, one person informed him that Nuruddin Zangi rahimahullah had a mimbar to be built, which he promised to install inside Masjid Al-Aqsa, which was presently in Aleppo, which was present in Syria, which is modern day Aleppo. So Salahuddin Ayyubi rahmatullahi ordered for this mimbar to be transported from Aleppo. It was dismantled. It was transported to Masjid Al-Aqsa, assembled inside Masjid Al-Aqsa and installed by him. Historians mentioned that whilst this mimbar was being transported from Aleppo, the Muslims were rejoicing, congratulate one another for the conquest of the Muslims and their liberation of Masjid Al-Aqsa by the Crusaders. So this basically what happened, and this mimbar remained with in Masjid Al-Aqsa for approximately 700 to 800 years, up until 1969. That when an Australian Zionist extremist by the name of Michael Rohan, who came inside Masjid Al-Aqsa during Fajr time, disguised himself as a Muslim, assumably joined the Fajr Jamaat and remained inside the masjid up until Shuruq and until the masjid was empty, and he poured petrol over the mimbar and other part on the eastern side of the masjid and set it on fire and raised the mimbar to the ground. So not only the mimbar but other parts of the masjid that was destroyed, which caused outrage within in the Muslim world about this attack that happened. Now, if you can see on the right hand side, if you can look at the ceiling, and if you look at the ceiling on the left hand side, and likewise if you see the pillars on both sides, you see that they are dissimilar. This is because on the eastern side, which is the right hand side, he caused much damage, severe damage to the masjid. So we can cause much damage, so you can imagine the severity of the damage that which he caused, which then caused much outrage in the Muslim world, and they seek to take revenge and so on and so forth. But this is exactly what happened. So you see the mimbar here right now is a replica version of the original mimbar of Nuruddin Zangi rahimahullah, which stayed inside Masjid Al-Aqsa for about 700 to 800 years. Approximately 40,000 Jummahs were performed on this mimbar up until 1969. And one of the sad thing is that why Salahuddin Ayyubi rahmatullahi installed the mimbar, which was a sign of a victory, unfortunately this mimbar here which is a replicate version of the original one, was installed inside Masjid Al-Aqsa under the permission of the Zionist government. So they had to seek permission from them before this mimbar could be installed. So this is a sign of humiliation for the ummah, and it's a kind of disgrace. Now the remnants of the original mimbar of Nuruddin Zangi rahimahullah, it's inside the museum until now. Inshallah, in the future videos, when we do visit the museum, I will show some clips on this, and I will share it with you, inshallah ta'ala. So this is just a brief history I mentioned about the mimbar. Now, one thing else I wanted to show you is that if you look above the mihrab, this golden inscription, this mihrab was, by the way, built by Salahuddin rahmatullahi alayhi. It just basically mentions that this mimbar was installed by Salahuddin Ayyubi rahmatullahi alayhi in the year 583, Hijri, which corresponds to the 1187 of the English calendar. Okay, the next video I'm going to share with you is the chamber of Sayyidina Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam. You know the very famous story in the Quran where Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam, she dedicated her service for Masjid Al-Aqsa, and there was a room that was designated for her in which she would devote all her life for her ibadah to Allah. So the chamber that was built for her is believed that this is the actual chamber, and this was the same chamber in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala records in the Quran. Allah Ta'ala mentions that she used to receive rizq from the heavens. And Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam, who was a custodian, who mentioned that anna laki hada, that where did you used to get this provision from? Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam used to say that innahu min indillah, it was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She used to receive out-season food from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly from the heavens. It was at this point that Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam had the urge to make dua to Allah and request Allah ta'ala for having a child. So this was the chamber that's believed to be the chamber of Sayyidina Maryam alayhi salam, in which she would devote herself towards ibadah. So this is the adhan of Isha. the place where the Mu'adhin does the adhan. Assalamu alaikum to all. Now this is we've come to the end of the day today of some of the historical significances of Masjid Al-Aqsa. Just one thing I wanted to mention, which I thought bring to your attention, is that coming to Masjid Al-Aqsa, you'll notice that the east side and the west side both are different. So for example, let's say if I look onto the right side, which is known as the west side of Masjid Al-Aqsa, you see that the pillars are made from bricks and so on. But if you look onto the eastern side, which is on my left hand side, you see the pillars are of marble. So many people wonder as to why. Not many people actually discuss this. The reason for the difference on the differences in the pillars of both sides is because in the year 1969, as I mentioned in the previous clip, that when a Zionist by the name of Rohan, who came into the Masjid Al-Aqsa and burnt down the Mimbar Nuruddin Zengi, he also lit the eastern side, which is all this area, this whole side, into flames and fire. So this whole area was burnt down, as well as the Mimbar Nuruddin Zengi, because of this Zionist person in the year 1969. Because of which the whole eastern side of Masjid Al-Aqsa was now renovated, and it was then rebuilt and new pillars were put in. But however, because nothing happened to this, thankfully nothing happened to the western side, therefore the pillars here, they remain the same as they were since from the last 100 years. So you can see here from now, you can see that the pillars from both sides are different, are dissimilar from one another. This is one of the reasons why, because the eastern side was set on fire as opposed to the left-hand side. One final thing to mention about Masjid Al-Aqsa, the masjid that we're in, there were a number of names that were given to this. The first was known as Al-Musalla, the second was Al-Mughatti. One of the reasons, because this masjid, the masjid as we see now, was built during the Umayyad dynasty. And they called it a Musalla because people used to pray Salah here. It was called Mughatti because this is the only place that had a rooftop where people used to pray Salah. And then it was known as Jāmi Al-Qibly, which means the Jāmi Masjid, that's towards the direction of the Kaaba. Now why was it called Jāmi Al-Qibly? Because Masjid Al-Aqsa here, as we stand in now, it is in the southern part, it's in the southern part directly facing the Kaaba. So the way we're standing now to pray Salah, so where I'm standing now, this is directly facing the Kaaba. So that's why it was called a Jāmi Al-Qibli, because it's in the side direction of the Kaaba. So these are some of the things to be mentioned, the things that I wanted to mention. So inshallah, in the following clips we'll be looking at, I'll be sharing with you video clips of the historical sites in and outside of Jerusalem. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.